The UFC returns to Sydney, Australia once again, and with them, they bring a middleweight title fight in the main event as Dricus du Plessis looks to defend his title against Sean Strickland, who is the fighter that he defeated to win the title in the first place back in January of 2024. And in the co-main event, we have the women's strawweight title on the line as Weili Zhang looks to defeat the biggest threat to her in this division, Tatiana Suarez. A quick fun fact that a lot of people may not know, this is actually the fifth middleweight title fight that is being taken place in Australia. You know, a lot of that had to do with Robert Whittaker and Israel Adesanya and their influence in the region, so it makes sense. But this is the fifth time that the UFC is bringing the middleweight title and having it contested in Australia, down under. So, little fun fact there for you guys. Reminder, this is the quick picks version of the UFC 312 breakdown. I go nearly an hour breaking this fight down for you guys earlier this week on the MMA Lawcast. So for this segment, I'll be getting right to the point for every single matchup. But if you want a little bit more information on any specific fight, make sure you guys check out the link in the description below, or just go to my YouTube page and seek out the MMA Lawcast, which I dropped again earlier this week, talking about every fight, 4 to 5 minutes each, and just breaking down every single angle of it. So make sure you guys check that out if you're interested in that. Also, a reminder, I'll be dropping the Legacy Warriors podcast later this evening to cover LFA 201, which goes down Friday night, serving as an appetizer to the UFC 312 card. So if you're looking for some LFA action, I'll have a full card breakdown for you guys here on the YouTube page, but I'll have track plays for it on the Patreon page. So make sure you guys check that out if that's what you're looking for. All right, hope you're laced up and ready to go because we're off and running with the first fight of the night between Hyun-Sung Park and Nyamjagal Tumendemberel. I think Park is one of the best South Korean prospects to come out of that region for a long time, and I think he'll showcase that potential against the dangerous Tumendemberel. Look for the counter-striking speed and grappling of Park to overcome the finishing threat of Tumendemberel, leading to Park winning this fight by submission. Next up, Salkilld coming in, going up against Anshul Jubli. I do believe Salkilld is the far superior striker and grappler, but I think it'll be the latter that he ends up leaning on here to eventually find a dominant position against Jubli and find a submission victory. Next up, Jonathan Micallef going up against Kevin Jousset. I really like Jousset in this spot as I think that he can stop the takedowns of Micallef with his judo background, and then from there utilize his striking advantage to really pick apart Micallef. I expect this fight to go the full 15 minutes, but the majority of it being Micallef looking for takedowns, Jousset defending, but also landing damage, and that being the deciding factor in this matchup. So once again, give me Jousset and Jousset by decision. Next up, Rongzhu going up against Cody Steele. Very fun fight here, but I do believe the experience and striking advantage of Rongzhu will allow him to overcome the undefeated record of Cody Steele. Steele is only 7-0 as a professional MMA fighter, and I think that he'll struggle to get this fight to the ground once he decides that he needs to get it there to have any success. Rongzhu has made tremendous improvements in his defensive grappling, and then I think that will come true for him here as he stops the takedowns, keeps this fight standing, and picks apart Steele en route to a decision victory. Next up, Thicknesse going up against Alexandre Topuria. Topuria is the brother of featherweight champion Ilya Topuria, and I think he'll be able to make a dominant statement in his debut here against the short notice Thicknesse. I think we'll see Topuria walk Thicknesse down, corral him against the cage, and eventually find a big shot to put his lights clean out, hence why I'm picking Topuria to win this fight by knockout. Next up, Wang going up against Bruna Brasil. Wang is looking to bounce back after her first professional loss last time around to Gabriela Fernandez, and I think that will showcase a little bit more of a disciplined approach from Kong, and I think that will allow her to pick apart Brasil, stop the takedown attempts that are coming her way, and eventually win this fight on the scorecards. Next up, a striker's delight between Tom Nolan and Vyacheslav Borshchev. I think we'll see Borshchev control the pace of this matchup, counter Nolan effectively, and take advantage of his poor striking defense, which will lead to Borshchev eventually picking him apart and finding that finish around that second round mark. Next up, Jenkins going up against Gabriel Santos. I believe Santos is the better fighter here in terms of being more dangerous. I think he's a little bit slicker with his Muay Thai, a little bit more aggressive with his BJJ, and I think his Muay Thai will allow him to check the kicks of Jenkins and eventually counter him with straight shots down the pipe, which will lead to Santos winning this fight on the scorecards. Next up, Jake Matthews going up against Francisco Prado. I was impressed with Matthews' ability to take Phil Rowe to the ground in the third round of his last matchup, and if he can bring that fight IQ into this fight against a dangerous striker in Prado, that should allow Matthews to have more paths to victory in this fight. I look for Matthews to put together a full body of work here to win this fight on the scorecards by mixing his striking and grappling to keep Prado on the defensive. Next up, Jimmy Crute returns and goes up against Rodolfo Bellato. I do not believe in Crute enough to make me believe he can pull off the upset here. I think we'll see Bellato dictate the pace with his striking, eventually stopping the takedowns of Crute, and eventually slowing him down, beating him down, and eventually winning this fight by knockout. Next up, Justin Tafa going up against Taliesin Teixeira. Fun fight here. Teixeira is a 6'7" BJJ black belt who has largely leaned on his striking to make his way into the UFC. But I think he would be ill-advised to try to strike against a power puncher like Justin Tafa, which is why I wouldn't be surprised if Teixeira looks to get this fight to the ground sooner than later. Once he does, I think he can find the dominant position to keep Tafa on his back and either open up a submission opportunity or a knockout by ground and pound. But my official prediction will be Teixeira by submission. And that brings us to our first title fight of the night in the women's strawweight division as champion Weili Zhang looks to defend her title once again, going up against Tatiana Suarez. I have to lean with Suarez here with her smothering wrestling approach and her improving BJJ game, which I think will eventually open up a submission opportunity for her. Zhang will clearly have the striking advantage, but I think it'll be very difficult for her to stop the chain wrestling and strength of Suarez once Suarez gets a hold of her. Zhang's wrestling has clearly improved, but I don't think it's enough for her to overcome somebody like Suarez. Look for Suarez to eventually find the neck of Zhang and force the submission. And new strawweight champion, Tatiana Suarez. And now the main event, middleweight title fight on the line between Dricus du Plessis, looking for a second successful title defense, going up against former champion Sean Strickland. The first matchup was very close with, I believe, the majority of judges giving rounds 1 and 5 to Sean Strickland, and then rounds 2, 3, and 4 to du Plessis. I think if Strickland can pick it up a little bit more, he should be able to utilize his pace and his pressure as effectively as we've seen him do in the past, and that will allow him to really pick apart du Plessis here, get ahead on the scorecards, get ahead on the numbers, and eventually win this fight on the scorecards. I think Strickland has good enough striking defense and good enough durability to deal with any of the big shots coming back his way, and I also wouldn't be surprised if we see Strickland try to incorporate a little bit of grappling to try to stay a little bit safer. But regardless, I still think Strickland ends up pulling away in this matchup in deep water and winning it on the scorecards. And new middleweight champion once again, Sean Strickland. There you guys go. Quick picks for UFC 312. Hopefully you guys enjoyed the content thus far. Again, Legacy Warriors podcast dropping later on this evening, so stay tuned for that. Otherwise, I will see you guys tomorrow for the free play, or free parlay, I should say, the Lucky Two-Step Lucky Trinity, as well as the prop drop segment for UFC 312. See you guys then. Peace.